are you ready? Are you good? We're good. Okay, so I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Brookline School Board for April 23rd. Before we get started with any agenda adjustments, though, I would like us just take a moment and welcome Heather Reardon. She wasn't here with us last time, our new board member. If you don't mind, can we start at this end of the table and just do introductions so that we're all acquainted with each other? That would be great.
Sure. I'm Donna Smith. I work at the SAU, and I'm the Assistant Business Administrator.
Tricia Boulay, Principal at CSDA.
Hi, Heather. Welcome. Dan Maloney, Principal at RMS.
Hi, Heather Lauren, the DeGennaro Director of Student Services.
Hello, Gina Bergstock, Superintendent-elect.
Elsa Banion, Chair.
Tracy Perry, Vice Chair.
Lynn Powers, member.
So,
Thank you.
and so thank you for running and serving and joining us. We're excited to have you this year. So welcome aboard. All right, with that, we do have an agenda adjustment for this evening. Policy BDE does state that standing and special committees and delegates shall be appointed by the chairperson of the board. Committees will meet as needed on problems pertaining to said committees and will make recommendations for action by the full board. This policy does not require formal action by the board on committee appointments. Therefore, a request was made to amend the agenda this evening by removing the first deliberative item, which is related to committee appointments. That's just how the agenda was originally laid out. So I'll go ahead and just make the motion to adjust the agenda as requested. May I get a second?
I second.
Thank you. All right. So that being said, oh yeah, thanks. All in favor of adjusting? All right. Thanks.
Yep.
You just have, I'm off and running, and hey, keep me honest. All right. So the first thing I'd like to do is, speaking of appointments, I would like to make those. And I had sent an email to our fellow board members here about, can you take one of these, pass it down, about these. I don't think I have enough for everybody, but you can do that. I tried my best to describe, there were a lot of questions surrounding like what the committees are, and I want to thank Gina for her input too on these descriptions. There's a list of committees. There's 5 of us. There's a lot going on here. So the first thing I did is I worked to consolidate some of these committees and group them in the ways that made the most sense. So if I look at our list of committees, typically from what I've learned also in speaking to other board chairs is that the Brookline Policy Committee Chair is also usually the SAU 41 Policy Chair. So I grouped those together. The Finance Committee and the Budget Committees kind of all go together. So I grouped the SAU 41 and the Brookline School Board Budget Committee together. And I also rolled into that finance, and I'll talk about that in a second. The cooperative study I left by itself. I coupled the teacher luncheon and the wellness together as one committee. Facilities and construction kind of go hand in hand. So, because I think that really is the same thing from what we had talked about. And so I paired those with planning board and the town capital improvement. And on this little handout that I passed around, I kind of talked about how I did that. And then the superintendent, the spec committee is a standalone. The exit interview committee, which isn't on here, is a standalone. And then we have the 2 negotiating teams. So in an effort to streamline our work and to not have huge loads across the board, I did my best to condense. So if you look at what I handed here, and you can pass this, I think, to Dawn so she can have this for minutes. We decided last meeting that the signer of the manifest would be Lynn and Heather, and then Johanna is the alternate. So that comes through email. You guys will see that. Johanna did ask to be on the policy committee. She also agreed to do the governing board, the SAU 41 governing board policy committee. So that'll be Johanna's bucket. For the Brookline and the SAU budget committee, that's going to be Lynn. And I coupled that with the finance. Now that's kind of, it is extension. If you can act as a liaison to the Brookline Finance Committee, that would be great based on your time and your availability, how much you want to grow that role. That is totally up to you. So if you're able to work with the Finance Committee, see what they've got going on, share with them what we're doing, and kind of be that voice outside of just when they meet with us during budget season, that would be great. The cooperative study, Tracy offered to do, which I appreciate, but I actually made it out of the co-chair with you, Lynn, because I thought it was important that somebody from the board who helped write the warrant article was on that. But then also, because terms are going to be up next year, it would be great to have somebody on the committee that, if in the event somebody doesn't rerun, that we have that knowledge and experience should the results of that study propel us forward in a direction based on those findings. I also thought that coupled well with budget, which is why I did that. The Wellness Committee is, Heather, I guess see if you could do that you meet with people across the SU once a quarter on Zoom. It's also helping with the Brookline Teacher Luncheon, which Johanna really, really loved doing last year and was like, please to let me do it. So I made her alternate Sashko. So she's got a spreadsheet and everything. She's excited about that one. Last year, Tracy did a really great job with our strategic plans. You're really involved with the town. So if you can, I appreciate you volunteering for your continued involvement with that. And then on this one, actually, there's kind of two extensions. The planning board, which is also like a lot of capital improvements in town, if I'm remembering that correctly, I think they're the same. Are they the same committee? Or are they two different committees in town?
Yeah, there's the CIP and then the
Okay.
planning board is every month.
Okay, so as possible, these extensions are not requirements. You don't have to, but however you want to grow your role that you feel it would benefit our board with our work, that would be great. For the spec committee, based on the language of the description of that, it's me. However, I'm making Johanna the alternate because that is going to come during a time of year when I know my family is incredibly busy and I am preemptively assuming that I might have some issues fulfilling that portion of my role. So I'm going to make Johanna my alternate there. I'm serving on the superintendent exit interview. And then we get down to the two negotiating teams. For the BESA negotiating team, it'll be Johanna and Tracy. And then for the Brookline Teachers Association negotiating team, it's myself. I do need a second. I didn't want to assign the negotiation teams out because they are a significant amount of time. And so I didn't feel it was fair for me to just assign those. But Lynn or Heather, are either of you interested in the teacher contract negotiations?
Yeah, I don't mind maybe helping out. When you say significant though, I don't know, can you define that as best you can? Is that like, is that once a month? I'm sorry, is that once a week? Is that every day?
It is.
No, a couple times a month, probably. I think it was every other week, right?
So it really depends on
Right.
how quickly we can move through. We're going to have some communication that gets us going on that. So the committee meets and really plans out everyone's availability. We try to front load them because it must end with deal or no deal, if you will, by January 10th-ish. So we like to say by December for Brookline just because of SB2. Yeah. So that becomes like a meeting every 2 to 3 weeks. And then as we get closer to that date, if we're not at an agreement, we need to potentially meet weekly for a little bit to get that moving.
And that's an hour, couple hours at a time, like.
Well, if I can build on that too, we
Yep.
sometimes also have it we also have, so we'll meet as the negotiating team with the union for some meetings every other week, but then we'll also have shorter meetings in between with strategy for the board and the administration to talk in between those meetings. So it winds up being approximately once a week to once every 2 weeks for maybe 2 to 3 months.
Okay. I mean, I don't mind stepping up.
That'd be awesome.
And it sounds like there is like obviously some flexibility if.
Oh, yes, we all work together with our schedules, and we'll do in person, we'll do Zoom, we'll do morning, we'll do afternoon. There's a lot of options, yeah.
I'm a Zoomer, just given my crazy work schedule, whatnot. So that's how I broke these down. Now, there was on the list was the SEL committee, which I want to talk about. It's not here yet, but Tracy had raised that at the last meeting. So last year, there was talk about us having an SEL committee. I don't believe it ever really got off the ground. at one point, there was work being done in the schools where there was an SEL committee, and I believe a board member was invited to some of those. Are we still doing that? Like, how is SEL functioning in the schools? I just want to figure out where we can support, because there's an interest in supporting, without creating whole separate buckets of work.
So, I mean, we typically circle around through SEL like staff meetings, so we'll discuss it there. It's being taught just like throughout the school day. We have SEL classes for specials, morning meetings. The committee hasn't met like we did 2 summers ago to develop all the posters that you see around the building.
Right. I think that's where we were involved, right?
Yeah,
We had somebody from
that was the involvement,
was
was just to get it started, and then, but a lot of great work came out of it, where we developed an MTSS committee, we developed some new, like I said, expectations throughout the district.
And at CSDA, we have the Brown Center that comes to the school in the fall. It's followed up in June with the 6th graders going up there, kind of capstone.
And we have SEL in budget for next year. That is not going away, obviously, right? Okay.
For the Browns.
So the Brown Center,
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
And then we have assemblies, we have our PAR and J awards system, so.
Okay.
And then last year we did a presentation of what our year looked like.
Right, right. And you guys are always really good about sharing with us what you are doing from an SEL view standpoint within the schools. So I guess then I kind of, I'm going to punt this back to you, Tracy, because I understand that you want, there's an interest in supporting. The work is going on in the schools, though, so I just want to make sure we're not, as a board, overstepping. So I don't know if you have any other thoughts, or you want to elaborate a little bit more on the interest.
Yeah, maybe I had heard wrong in the news, but I thought I'd heard that Choose Love was going away, based on some state mandates or state. So if that does happen, I'd just be interested to see kind of what takes its place, or how that gets a new program.
I mean, I can share that at our school, we haven't used Choose Love for probably over a year,
Okay.
maybe a year and a half. And in place of it, our staff got training with Responsive Classroom, and
Okay.
that's been really good. And I think a lot of schools have actually moved away from Choose Love. There was a lot of great components, but
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
a lot of our staff wanted Responsive Classroom, and that brings in the whole morning meeting, the
Got
closing
it.
circles. I think it's been about a year.
Yeah, more than that.
A little bit more than a year.
Good. So then we don't have to worry about that. And, I also just have to say I loved the report outs that you and Trish had done, kind of around behaviors and things like that. If those could be incorporated more into our meetings, I think it would just help us get more of like a snapshot of, kind of how students are feeling or behaving, or, that sort of thing. If there's anything that we can do to support that, I'd love to see that too.
Yeah, I think it worked. I was going to speak for myself. I thought it worked out really well last year, where it was asked for us to collect the data, and we did the end of the year report. I thought that worked out really well, because then we were able to share how we plan to go into the summer with budgeting, and then there was some discussion about, here's our data, where should we go? We gave some options, and that's where the psychologist came out of it. We had the SEL teacher in there at the time, the school counselor. I mean, I'd be happy to share the results from this year at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But
And it also helped, we have the school counselor going in at each grade level monthly. And we kind of turned around as far as we set up what our themes would be each month. And for her to, we talk about it at the assemblies, and then she'd go into the classes, and if I was available, I'd also go in. But looking at the data from last year, we were able to kind of turn around where, preemptively, maybe this particular topic would be better served earlier in the year or later in the year.
Yeah. Okay. Does that, knowing that that's still going on in the schools,
Yeah.
knowing we're not going to let that go away,
Yeah,
are you?
definitely.
I just want to make sure you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
not having that called out as a separate line item.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
think just hearing some of those numbers would, more than, once a year would be great.
All right, maybe we can, because at one point, it was almost every month we were talking about kind of some data based on behavior or the climates of the schools, and, maybe we can figure out a way to work that in a little bit
We
more.
were collecting every month. I still have, just in case it was asked, but happy to produce it. It's definitely time consuming.
Can we,
For June.
can we start rolling it into the principal's report maybe, just as a, even a snapshot maybe, or no?
So I will just say, like, yes, they were planning on reporting out at the end of the year presentation for the status. I don't know that looking at data monthly makes a whole lot of sense. You want to collect it over time and do comparisons, but maybe, you know, we always do our opening year goal setting presentation, we close it in the end. Maybe we do a mid-year, like.
I think mid-year would be
Let's do a mid-year.
appropriate, and
Yeah.
then that way we have a check.
Yeah,
Right.
just a good temperature.
Yes.
I think especially with some changes, the changes that are gonna be happening at CSA,
Yep.
I think that would be good, just to make sure that we're able to help provide the support, especially with the transition, if there's anything that we can do from our chairs here to be supportive.
Great.
Okay, and then there was another proposed committee surrounding legislation, and like a legislative committee, and I'm kind of talking this way at the moment to see if anybody here is interested in adding another committee. So it was raised that there's a lot of changes going on, obviously at the state, federal level, and that if somebody was interested in really keeping a very close eye or pulse on that, I know that we are from the SAU level. I know that we have lawyers that are watching all of that for us as well. I didn't know if there was anybody though who wanted to just kind of was interested in tracking with that kind of the intent. I think of just, you know, there's a lot going on now. Obviously, not all of it's going to pass, but it would be good if we had a heads up. I know we're watching it on one end. I didn't know if there was somebody else over here that was interested in, you know, kind of keeping a pulse on and raising things that maybe we might want to start thinking about should they move forward.
I mean, I don't mind keeping track. I don't know what that entails exactly. So that's whereas, you know, if maybe I'm just in touch with the attorney, you know, on.
So the School Board Association sends out regular
Oh,
updates,
okay.
and it's, it really just kind of pulls out the bills that are related to education, potentially, potential policy updates that we might need, and they send out regular reports that are, it's a lot of information. So I think you could really just review the email that comes out every
Okay.
once in a while.
That's fine.
And maybe just if there's something pertinent to like flag if we are already not talking about it, start there. Okay, and then the other thing that was suggested that I think is actually a really good idea is, we have our principals report. In the reporting section of our agenda, I would like to add a standing line item for committees. We don't always call out, I don't think we need to call every committee every month, but instead of having to do agenda adjustments, if a committee has something to share out or report on, are we able to just do a standard line item, and we can say, kind of like principal's report is here, it's included. If there's committee work that you guys are ready to share information on or share out, that we would then just have that bucket, so we wouldn't necessarily, it would be nice if there's some blurb or something to prepare in advance. I would assume that you'd be ready and prepared, so you might have something that you can send myself or Gina so we can get it into the packet, but if not, that way we have that line item there that if there's something, oh yeah, I probably should have submitted this, I forgot, life got away from me, we have that bucket there under reporting in our agendas, so we can just say, hey, any committee.
Yeah, so Hollis has the enrollment committee and Co-op has the facilities committee, and they throw those as the last item under discussion, and it's just, there's usually no backup as part of the packet, it's really just a discuss
Conversation.
what happened, and sometimes it's the committee didn't meet, or the committee's waiting for the budget committee's input, or, you know, something to that effect, but it's,
We've never really like called out our committees here.
We
to,
haven't,
we
yeah.
haven't, to say, hey, you know, what's the work that's going on? Is there anything? And there are going to be some months or some meetings where there isn't something from every committee, but I think having it in our agenda as a regular line item, this was a really great suggestion. So thank you, Tracy, on that one. To have it there is a good reminder too for everybody. So that is what we'd like to do. All right. Sorry, I know that was really long-winded for committee appointments. Thank you, everybody, for
I like the chart.
being patient. All right. The next thing is Member Reardon. You were not here at our last meeting, and a policy was brought before the board. It is policy BCA, which is the Board Member Code of Conduct Ethics. And we just need you to state that you are in agreement with policy BCA, Board Member Code of Ethics.
I am in agreement.
Awesome. Is that sufficient?
Yep.
All right. Perfect. All right. Gina, do you have any nominations, resignations, or correspondence?
Oh, I do. And just so you know, I'm going to report them out, and then I'm going to need your signature on all of them. So I'd like to start off with a nomination for Nicole Layton for the position of Grade 1 at RMMS. She's a bachelor's in elementary ed from Plymouth State University. Almost. Next week. So she's bachelor step 1 with a salary of $45,680.
All right. So, you ready for a motion?
Yeah.
I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Nicole Layton for the position of Grade 1 at RMMS, Step 1, and a salary of $46,680. May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Excellent.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to bring forward a nomination of Brianna Demers for the position of Grade 4 teacher at CSDA. Brianna has a bachelor's in elementary ed and math from Plymouth State University. We would like to place her with a bachelor's step 5 for a salary of $51,413.
All right, so I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Brianna Demers for the position of Grade 4 at CSDA, Step 5, and a salary of $51,413.
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay. Next, we have a nomination for Kyle Chamberlain for the position of Grade 2 teacher at RMMS. He has a bachelor's in molecular biology from UMass Amherst and a master's in education from Tufts. We'd like to place him on master's step 3 for a salary of $56,417.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Kyle Chamberlain for the position of Grade 2 at RMMS at a master's step 3 and a salary of $56,417.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Are you voting?
Oh,
Yes.
I thought after I second, I didn't.
Oh, no, you
No.
always vote. You always get to vote.
Second time, okay.
All good. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Danielle Troy for for a Grade 2 position at RMMS. She's a bachelor in history and elementary ed from Assumption and a master's in special education from Assumption. We'd like to hire her at master's step 10 for a salary of $69,386.
So I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Danielle Troy for the position of Grade 2 at a master's step 10 and a salary of $69,386.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Or more?
Oh, we do.
You all have been busy.
Yes. All right, I'd like to nominate Jessica Carrier for a position of kindergarten teacher at RMMS. She's almost a bachelor's in elementary ed from RIV. We'd like to place her at bachelor's step 1 for a salary of $45,680.
I did these in the wrong sheets. All right. I would like to make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Jessica Corner?
Carrier?
Carrier. See, I can't read my own writing. Carrier for the position of kindergarten at RMMS for a bachelor's step 1 and a salary of $45,680.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. And I'd like to nominate Colina Coolidge for a position of case manager at RMMS. She's a bachelor's in criminal justice from Franklin Pierce and a master's in elementary ed from Franklin Pierce. I'd like to place her on master's step 7 for a salary of $63,499.
What was your first name?
Colina.
Colina. I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Colina Coolidge for the position of case manager at RMMS at a master's step 7 and a salary of $63,499.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
She also has special education certification.
Yeah, that's fine, but not her degree.
Oh, okay. Maybe I missed that.
We're good. Is that it?
So those are my nominations.
Okay.
I need you to sign them.
Oh, nice.
And then I don't have resignations.
Gina, there wasn't one more? For reading special?
Oh, I don't have that one. That'll be next month. We got to keep things exciting.
Excellent.
Then for correspondence, did you want to read this correspondence that came to you?
Oh, yeah, I guess I should. I'll sign these in a minute.
Yep.
All right, so, do I just have to read it? I don't have to make a
can
motion
just-
to read it?
you-
Okay.
yeah.
So we got this correspondence. It is, Dear Miss Mannion, this letter is to inform you that the Brookline Teachers Association desires to bargain a master's contract for the year beginning 2026 to 2027. This notification is in accordance with the requirements of RSA 273-A:3. Please contact Karen Pillion to set a date for the first negotiation session. Sincerely, Karen Pillion, President of the Brookline Teachers Association, NEA, New Hampshire. So that kicks off our teacher bargaining negotiations.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then a final piece of correspondence. I just wanted to update you with all of our hires. We have many positions that were posted and interviewing folks across the entire SAU. Including across the entire SAU, we have 4 school psych positions that are posted, and we would love more applicants to come our way, but we are a little bit concerned about the applicant pool overall for all 3 of our districts. And so we are looking to try to figure out ways that we can alternate ways to meet our need. If you recall, we added a school psych in Brookline. So we had one split between 2 buildings, and we were hoping to have one per building just based on the needs of the student. So some of those pieces can be managed with alternative methods, if you will. And we've been engaging in interviews for our co-op position of social worker, and we're just thinking, and I'm just putting it on your radar, thinking that might be a direction we go in to meet the needs of the services on a service grid for a student, if we cannot fill with a school psych.
Okay.
So, just putting that out there, that might be a way to meet our needs.
Any questions?
Is there anything we can do to help support you guys?
You can go to school to become a school psych. No. Yeah.
I have my social degree, but I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's challenging. Everyone, well, I would say across the state, but probably nationwide, are just really
Yeah.
struggling to find school psychologists. And so, we're not alone in that, but we still want to make sure we're meeting the needs of all of our students and doing so in a way that is best for everyone. And so, as we know, contracted services are incredibly expensive, so trying to potentially rearrange what it is that we're looking for and how those needs are allocated.
So it'd be like an LICSW or a CSW or something like that?
Yeah, and we would focus on ensuring that it had the New Hampshire Department of Education certification.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for social worker. But it's just something that sort of came to us as we're trying to brainstorm how do we move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do
So-
you need anything from us?
Not at
Let
this
us-
time, but
let
yeah,
us know.
thank you.
No problem. All right, I believe that's everything for adjustments, nominations, resignations, and correspondence. So, moving on to the approval of minutes. She included this part. Do I need to go over this?
No.
Okay. It's just about
Right, just gives
abstaining.
information, yeah.
Okay. We need to approve the minutes. There were some for the Brookline School Board meeting for our organizational meeting that was held on March 26, 2025. There was a following amendment offered. It was on page 6, line 23, to replace school with academy. Does anybody want to make a motion to amend? Oh, otherwise, I can do
Can I
it.
just ask a question about it?
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? What's the intent?
Oh, of
Just so I don't
correcting,
know.
it's correcting the transcript.
Oh, is it just wrong?
Yeah, it was just,
Oh,
it was
okay.
just,
It should have said academy the whole time.
Mhm.
That's-
yep, that's exactly right. So, that's all. Some meetings will have a lot of them. And we'll read a paragraph full. This one happens to be one, which is not so bad. All right, so I'll make a motion to accept this as amended.
Second?
All in favor? Yep, you can, so,
I was gonna say, I wasn't here last month, so I know I'm not usually allowed to approve minutes or anything like that, so I just was wondering.
it's a good time. I'm gonna go over this. Okay,
Yeah.
so, actually I have a little note here, and I think it's because we're still a little bit new, and that's okay. So, an abstention is not voting, even though you're sitting at the table. According to our governing board meeting on October 10th, when our attorney Christina was there, it was stated that an abstention is not voting. So you're sitting at the table, you may or may not be part of the discussion, you're not participating in the vote. A recusal is where you get up and you leave the table, you may stand in the audience, you may go out into the hallway. So we defined what an abstention and a recusal are. It is recommended that abstentions occur in very limited circumstances. For example, if you miss the last meeting, you might abstain from the vote on whether to approve meeting minutes, right? We had asked at that meeting if it was optional, and they were stated that it was. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Typically, you use your best judgment whether or not you should abstain from voting, whether or not you should get up and recuse yourself from the conversation or vote altogether. Historically, if you weren't at the last meeting, you abstained from voting on the meeting minutes, but it is perfectly within your prerogative if you want to agree that, hey, yes, let's make this correction. So, just a little clarification for everybody on that front. All right. In that case, then, I think we're on to our non-public.
Minutes. From
Our
March
non-public
26th.
minutes, that's right. So our non-public minutes, we just need a vote to accept the non-public minutes as they were presented. So I'll just go ahead and make that motion to accept those non-public minutes from the Brookline School Board meeting on March 26th as presented.
I'll second.
Excellent. All in favor?
And
Perfect.
She'll abstain.
All abstained?
I will.
You abstained. Perfect. All right. And on to the principal's report we go.
Okay, good evening. For our principal's report for this month, we have our enrollment history from the past many years, and then our breakdowns by grade levels. And right now we have 560 students in the district. And then on to the second page, these are our upcoming events, some that have already passed. Some of the highlights for RMS, we have our grade 3 concert tomorrow. We're excited to have the students perform. They did a great job today in their first rehearsal, and they'll perform for the school tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow evening for families. And then we had our book fair, which the PTO did a wonderful job of putting that on during the week of April 3rd. And the one thing that sticks out every year is the PTO does a great job where they make sure every student leaves with something. So I really appreciate that. All the students left with a smile on their face, happy with the book in their hand. So thank you to the PTO for funding that portion of it, but also holding the book fair night and having the volunteers be here for every classroom visit. And then we have grade 2 that just went to Beaverbrook today, and they also went last week as well. And all of our classes have started doing their walking field trips to the library. So today we had we had a kindergarten class go today, and that will continue all the way through the month of May. We usually do in the fall, but we picked the spring this year because there's a new Brookline children's library in there, and they weren't there to run it, so we moved it to the spring. And then coming up, when we return from vacation, we have New Hampshire SAS in the Brookline schools. That's starting the 6th, so Tuesday, May 6th, for grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. And at both schools, we're testing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Is that accurate for you too?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
All right, in our building is Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. And then we have grade 1 has Eyes on Owls program coming. That's sponsored by the PTO. And grade 1 will be going to the for a field trip to Stone Zoo. And then we just have a couple pictures for RMS. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And for CSTA, we've had a busy month already. Grade 6 completed their Ames Web testing the first week in April. They traditionally do those testing, their in-house testing benchmarks, so that they'll have the data for transitioning to middle school when they're doing placements. We share that information with the middle school. They had a very successful, grade 6 had a very successful visit to the middle school on April 9th. We bussed them over there for a few hours, and they got to have lunch over there as well. So they really enjoyed it, and they got to also associate with kids from the 6th grade over in Hollis. So the kids, when they returned, I happened to be up there for some meetings. They were excited to be there, and they did say the food was phenomenal. So they're excited to go to middle school for a new cafeteria. But they had a great time. We've been continuing with the puberty videos for grades 4, 5, and 6. We also had on April 11th the author visit. It was actually through Zoom, and I was really worried about how was that going to be received by the students and staff. It was phenomenal. If your child hasn't read The Wild Robot, there's a series of them. The kids love this book. And I have to be honest with you, I haven't read it yet. It's on my to-do list before the end of the year. But the author is Peter Brown. He did a phenomenal job. He spoke to the students about the process of writing a book. He pulled up his redlined receipt, pages back from the publishing company, and explained to the students that even though it's my book and it's my ideas, I don't always get to have the final say. So he said it's kind of like I have teachers out there correcting my, some errors or giving me some ideas that I have to think about, who my audience is going to be. He also showed them, he's quite an artist, so he showed them how he comes up with his designs for all the pictures, and then how he uploads them into the computers, and how he kind of makes them more comical there. So it was really a great experience. So it was well worth the money that was spent. And Hollis Brookline High School students came down for Red Cross safety for grade 4, and basically they review the safety precautions that one should take within their household, and to share it with their families as far as what should you do and what are the proper things to think about in your house to make sure everybody's safe. And last night, I have to say, we had a wonderful showing at our STEAM curriculum night. The parking lot was packed, the building was packed. The students and teachers did a phenomenal job. Basically, every classroom had something going on. Either 4th grade was showing their colonial villages. They created, every student was involved in creating a part of the village that they put together in each of the classrooms. 5th grade, they used their state projects and actually decided to create something 3-dimensional, and they got to choose what it was. One student did a crocheted animal to represent their state. We had somebody else create through decoupage and what was it? The White Mountains, and 3-dimensional. It was just phenomenal showing. And grade 6 did their science projects with they had drag racing cars with their Connects cars that they created. And we also showed in the library, 6th graders presented some of their research projects as a presentation. In the gym, we had 3 sections, grades 4, 5, and 6 took turn. Students volunteered to work with Mrs. Van Dyke, the PE teacher, to demonstrate what a typical PE class or a health class may look like. And we even got parents to take part in the lessons. So there was a lot going on, and it was well received, I think, by the parents and students. So I thank everybody for coming out. And that's Mr. Molinari said, after vacation, we'll be starting the SAS testing. So something to look forward to.
Thank you both for everything. The STEAM night last night was great.
Yeah, it really was.
I really enjoyed touring and seeing everything across all the grades. I think
Yeah.
I saw a lot of my colleagues there as well, and it was definitely a lot of fun. And thank you again to the PTO for helping support all of our students to make sure everybody goes home with something new to read. Deeply appreciated, for sure.
I just want to add, I forgot to say during nominations, but I like to add this to Dan's principal report. I apologize, Dan. That we did do some other hiring from within. So Kimberly
Hence all the moves,
Bodette.
too.
What's that?
Hence all the moves, too.
Yeah, so Kimberly Bodette is going back into her role of reading specialist at RMS. Caitlin Carmelini is going to be the MTSS interventionist that we added, that position. And then Jessica LaFlamme will be the environmental science teacher. So lots of great moves from within. So we're excited about that, and I apologize for forgetting that.
Congratulations to our staff members. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Good.
So
good
when you look
fits.
at all the moves, there were a whole bunch of moves. Other thing we want to mention too is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week is usually the week we return from. It's recognized nationally, May 5th week. We're going to be recognizing our staff the week after that.
Okay.
And that's when the PTO would like to do it as well. So just so everybody's aware, in case you don't see us recognizing the teachers that week, we're doing the week
Let your
after.
teachers know that.
We did.
Okay.
Oh, they do.
They always do the week after,
Yeah,
yeah.
we've been doing that.
Okay, for
that
a
way
while.
For a couple of years.
Fair.
It's like
fair
a
enough.
bad surprise. It's like, just kidding.
Yeah,
That's
I
very good.
didn't think about that. It's a good point.
Awesome. All right. Is there anything else from that end? No? Okay. At this time, I'm going to open up public input here at 6:43. We don't have anybody here, but if anybody joins us, we will certainly invite them to provide input. And in that case, then, we can move on with our discussion while we wait. And we'll start with the revenue and expense update.
Okay, so in your packet, you have our revenue expense report from April 14th. You'll see that we were able to release some encumbered funds from last month, so we are in a little bit better state than we were last month. We were able to release some special education lines as we near the end of the school year. We're able to get a better sense of what we feel we'll be spending. So at this point in time, April 14th, we have a unreserved fund balance of a negative $81,570. When we talk about the retained fund balance of $140,000, it puts us with a deficit of $221,570,000. Primarily, the $81,570 would come from the special ed trust fund. We did find this morning another purchase order we're able to revise, which is helping us out against that $81,570. So I think we're going to be in a pretty decent spot come the end of the year. But stay tuned, because we'll keep on it, and we'll keep tracking where we're at.
Any questions?
I'm just trying to find, I don't know where to find this document, so I'm,
If you are able to get into the diligence,
sorry, I'm
yeah.
new.
No, I was having trouble because it was,
So wait,
Go-
okay, it's in the drive? Okay,
no, if
No,
you go to SAU 41,
just SAU.
yep,
Yeah, go to the
Oh,
website.
and
okay.
then go to school boards, Brookline School Board.
Or you can just, there's Diligent Community right there under school boards. Go directly there.
Show me what I'm missing.
Hover over school board, and there should be diligent
Over
community.
school board, okay, yep, okay.
To the right, on the bottom.
On the
To
bottom right.
I'm not sure if it says
board
diligent
agendas.
there.
It does.
Oh, does it say board?
It says board
Board
agenda.
agendas and
Okay.
packets.
That too,
Okay,
which takes you to diligent.
Yeah.
so,
Well, I had,
We'll get you to the
we
right
changed
spot.
it because I don't think people knew what Diligent was.
Down and hit
That's
the
fair.
meetings.
eh,
The
sorry,
meetings.
the recent meetings, upcoming meetings, today's meetings?
Today's
meeting.
I mean, it makes sense, but,
Yeah, it
And then
says
you see
Brookline.
it says agenda and agenda packet. Just go to the
okay,
packet.
okay,
Yeah, that was taking me a little bit.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Thank you.
While we
It's
pause
new.
for a minute, do you need help? down there at that end?
It's just, I keep getting dropped off the Wi-Fi.
Oh, you're not just, okay.
Yeah, because I don't have, so, yeah, no, so it just keeps
Were you-
bumping me.
Okay, but you were with us otherwise.
Yeah.
Cool. I just want to make sure we all have the information that we're here. Okay. All right. And then general assurances, does that work?
Yep, so you can see the general assurances are there for you to review. Essentially, these are the requirements that we have to agree to, compliance documents, if we are in receipt of federal funds. So this would be specific to our IDEA funds and Title II, because we don't take Title I, and so we're not eligible for Title IV. So basically, this is saying that that I will follow all these rules, and the board chair has to initial every single page and sign the end. And so we
Fabulous.
put that out there so that everyone, you can do that at the end of the meeting. We put that out there so that everyone understands what it is that the board is signing off on, and that what I am held to, but it's really just saying that we're going to follow the law with regard to federal funding. And so later on in deliberations, actually it's the next item.
Which is the next item?
We just make a motion so that the board is directing Allison to sign off as board chair.
Right. So to that end, we're going to need a motion.
Okay,
Or what?
I just have a question. I don't know if you can.
Sure.
for it.
So we know that Title VI has changed based on Executive Order 14151. How is that impacting? Is that something we can talk about within this document, or is it
Sure.
a different
Yeah.
conversation?
So Title VI, that's an interesting piece that was sort of snuck into the general assurances. That was an amendment here, but it was also sent out to all superintendents. If you go to the Department of Ed web's page, you can see which school districts have complied and which school districts are not in compliance. So the administration has pushed down to the states to require all superintendents to agree that that we will not discriminate. And so every superintendent had to sign off on that. Andy Corey signed off for the Brookline School District, sent that in, and we're reporting out that we are not discriminating, and we are also agreeing within these general assurances that we are not discriminating. I think some of the concern, if I will just speak about my colleagues, the superintendents across the state, there are some concerns because it's Title VI, and then we throw in some language that some might feel is inflammatory in nature, but it becomes undefined. At the end of the day, the signature is complying with Title VI, and that we won't be discriminating.
Who
But
are we not discriminating against? Were we discriminating
Anyone.
before?
no.
Right, I'm just saying, sorry, who are they, but what policy is this overriding, I guess?
It's not overriding anything.
It's
We're
not.
just now all affirming that we are in compliance with Title VI, and then all the districts had to submit that to the State Department of Education, and then the commissioner is then reporting out to the federal government which communities are in compliance and which ones are not. And, this is the first time we've done this, and it was originally sent out early April with a due date of April 10th. And then the deadline was extended to the 17th. So they then have to, by the 25th, report out to the federal government. The thought is that potentially federal funds would be in jeopardy, but we're not sure yet what's going to come of that. But Andy did sign off for the districts that we are not discriminating.
Yeah, I just wonder, it says ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. Because it says government DEI programs, does that affect school districts? And if it does, then what would that mean to us? Or is
So,
it
and
a-
that's a really good question. That's up for interpretation because it is not clearly defined or widely understood with a particular definition by anyone. And so, at the end of the day, Title VI is grounded on discriminating, and we do not discriminate. And if you look to our district, we're not practicing anything illegal. And so we're affirming that we're not doing that, essentially. And like I said, that's sort of the inflammatory language that it has some folks concerned, understandably. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would just hate, well, I guess I can't voice my personal opinion. I just hate to see DEI things head to the wayside.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed, but I also have every faith in our district that if we have to remove wording, that our practice remains steadfast in supporting all of our students in every aspect of their needs and education. And I don't think I firmly believe in our school district that we don't need a piece of paper to tell us what the right thing to do for our families and kids is. We're just gonna do it because that's who we are as a community. So, yes, I hate to see it because not all communities are like that. I have a deep faith in our community that we are, so.
I agree. I think the thing that's scary is the up for interpretation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it can be spun, that's all, right? So like.
Correct.
We agree that we do not discriminate, but just be interested. Okay.
Yeah. This is not going to be the first or the last that we have to deal with over the next couple of years. And so we will just, one step at a time and we will just work through it together as a team. Yep.
But like I said, that's one reason why we put this out there as a formal motion to direct Allison to sign off or not. The Title VI sign off that Andy did early April, we're not sure what the ramifications will be. If we don't have this general assurances signed off, we know that we will not be allocated any federal funds at all. The general assurances have been a requirement for years now. So that I know is a direct result if you don't sign.
Yeah, because there were also changes, it looks like, made to Title IX.
Mm-hmm.
So just wondering again if, being K through 6, if that impacts us in any way, or?
Yeah, so it impacts us in a way that, if you recall, we moved through a bunch of Title IX policies, and then there was a change in the law, and then 1 year later, we pushed through amended policies relative to Title IX. And then now that the policy committee is up and running again, pretty soon you'll see those reverted back to what they used to be, essentially. So.
Should I know what Title IX, I'm sorry, what's Title IX? Just like high level.
Yeah, it says it prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex, including any guidance issued consistent with, again, Executive Order 14168, titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. So that is the new, I would imagine, amended definition of Title IX.
Yeah, so it's not really that's what they're saying is their perspective. But so in 2020, there were updated regulations with Title IX. And so that was what our old policy was. Last year in 2024, there was an updated one for August. So, and that changed kind of the process and procedure for how to handle harassment and discrimination based on sex, those policies and regulations. With the new change in federal government, they've now requested we go back to the 2020 regulations and the processes that are involved, and that's their rationale behind it. So we're going to be reverting back to our 2020 policies that we've had for years. I mean, and so we're going to go back. So that's really what's happening at that level, and what Tracy just read was the rationale behind it, but it's not changing what the 2020 procedures were for how we handle those investigations.
Okay, and so how does that change your process, though? Does it not?
Yep. Well, I mean, from August until when we update it back to 2020, we have one process under our policy and procedures. Okay. When we go back, it'll be what the old policy procedures used to be.
A lot of investigations, like a lot of regulations around the timelines.
Yep, the timelines, the investigation, all those pieces, how we handle,
that's helpful, right?
Yep, both the complainant and the
Not,
respondent.
right, that's all, like not knowing how the policies previously were.
Yeah, no, we have all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when we need to revert those will ultimately come here for our approval, so we'll see.
Yeah, you'll see them.
We'll see all the changes, so you'll get even more information to digest. So those will come if they're not
They're not here today,
tonight.
but they will.
There's a lot of them here
They
tonight.
will be.
They're
Which is
just not-
August.
Been doing work.
What's that?
The policy committee's been doing work.
Right, well, that's why we
August.
got that up and running last
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, thank you.
Right?
Just
No
too much
problem.
work to worry about.
Any other questions or concerns or anything else we want to raise surrounding that? Okay, in that case, then we do need a motion, and I have the verbiage here. You should have it if somebody can make, if you are comfortable to give me authorization to represent the school board. Do you want? Sure. Thank you. The very top, big
Okay.
paragraph.
I would like to motion to authorize the board chairman to represent the school board and acknowledge that the superintendent has consulted with all members of the school board in furtherance of the school board's obligations, including those enumerated in RSA 189:1A, and pursuant to the school board's oversight of federal funds the district will be receiving, and of the general assurances, requirements, and definitions for participation in said federal programs. Can I get a second?
One second.
Thank you.
All in favor? And I'm going to abstain since it is about giving me permission. So, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. What is this one for?
The policy,
Is that for policy? Is that for data management?
it's the policy memo. So,
Did I miss the memo?
it's just the, so I think if you have it as one big document, it's
I
actually
do.
the last document.
Oh, okay. So there is a policy memo at the end of
It's
our
the last
document.
page
That's why-
72.
That's why I got lost. All right. So on page 72 of our packet, there is a policy memo. Here it is, the BSD Policy Committee wants to make the following recommendations for the April 23rd, 2025 school board meeting. Since these are policy, do you want me to go through these, or since you were doing the policy work, do you want to roll through a couple of these?
So it depends, I think, if you want to do the policy memo as one, or if you want to do them individually.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually ask our board members here. So in the past, we've had a lot of, we often get multiple policies at one time. In the past, we've gone through them one at a time and voted on each one individually. We shifted to a different format last year where I believe we talked through the policies and then we voted on them all together as a group at the end. And so it was just one, here's the policy memo, here are the changes either for a second reading or for a first reading or to adopt, and we would do it all in one. I know we've got new members. Are you comfortable going through them and what the policy committee did as pertains to the changes, and then at the end, based on the policy memo here and what the policy committee recommends, that we do either move to a second reading or adopt, and doing one vote to capture them all? Or would you be more comfortable voting on each one individually as we go? And I do want to hear from
How
each of
many
you.
do we have?
Well, it varies. Some nights we have one, other nights we can have
We have 8
12,
tonight.
or we have 8 of them tonight. So, and that's why we moved, because we do a lot of we have been doing a lot of policy work. So, that's why we moved to just one final vote at the end after we review them all. Are you comfortable?
I'm fine.
Full? Okay, cool. Do you want to take us through the changes?
Let's take,
So-
we'll do a motion to approve the policy memo.
Got it.
We'll second it, and then I'll go through and discuss
And then
them.
you'll go through
Yeah.
them. Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the recommendations of the Brookline School Board Policy Committee as per the memorandum, which is provided as part of the agenda packet, and we just discovered on page 72. May I get a second?
Second.
Perfect, thank you. And then Gina will take us through, since Johanna's not here, take us
Sure.
through the changes.
Okay, so first there are a few policies that we're bringing forward for a second reading with no changes. So these were brought to you at our December 18th meeting. So it's been a little bit, but what we do as a policy committee is we look at the policies after the first read. We review the minutes from the meeting to see what the discussion was and if any ideas came up or concerns or questions. And if none have come up and we as a committee don't feel that we need to make a recommended change. We just bring it forward with no changes. So we have policy EH, public access to school district records. There were no changes recommended. JLF, reporting child abuse or neglect. Once again, no changes. KFD, use of automated external defibrillators. Say that 10 times fast. No changes. And then IHBAB, special education evaluations, bless you, also no changes. So those were, fairly straightforward. I will also say that if you have a concern or something that a question you might have about a policy, you can email Dan, Trish, myself, or Johanna, and we can either get back to you or bring it up for discussion in policy committee. Our policy committee meetings are also public, so anybody can attend, and they are 10 days prior to the board meetings on Mondays at RMS 12:15 or so this year.
12:15.
Okay, that's what we decided on. So, so don't feel like you have to say something right now or no changes whatsoever. We also are presenting for a second reading with some changes, EHR, public access to school district records. So this particular one,
Pause. It's on page 38 of your packet.
Page
Sorry.
38.
that's okay.
Yes, 38, in case you guys want to follow along.
I do.
Sorry.
No, that's good. So the beginning of it really is the same. What we brought forward as possible changes, we wanted some feedback from the board to get a sense of what do we think. So basically for right to know requests, we've received more and more in the last 5 years than we ever had before, and some of these requests are very lengthy and time consuming. And it's not so much the copying of materials for the request as the work that goes into finding and culling through all of, let's say, the emails. So that we might receive a right to know request that says any and all emails from any board member to any or between any staff members that include the word rainbow, let's say, and then we have to go through so that might be 35,000 emails that we're going through, and we're redacting information as appropriate. And that, as you can imagine, takes a lot of time. And then if they're supplied in electronic format, there's no fee associated with it because the fee that we had prior was a copy fee. So, hours and hours and hours of multiple people within the SAU and the individual building spending time. So there was a change to the RSA that allows us to bill differently. And so there's copy fees. It says 15 cents. There's an extra zero, so that should be 15, not 1.5 cents. For copying photocopies of records, also electronic records, it describes that if you want them electronically, potentially they go through email, but also if they're large enough in quantity and you want them on a thumb drive, you have to supply a thumb drive for us in its original packaging to ensure that there's no issue with it. But then charges for certain electronic communications. So we define what an individual electronic communication is. We defined what requests are, and then we're saying that we would potentially charge 15 cents per individual electronic communication, regardless of whether the records are delivered in hard copy or electronically, subject to the following. So the first 250 individual communications are no charge. Beyond that, we can charge per individual communication, like I said, 15 cents per communication beyond that. And anyway, so we didn't know, in first reading, we didn't bring that forward as an option, but we didn't know if the board felt like this would be a protective factor for the district, or if you wanted to steer clear of it and simply advise us to delete section 6, 7, and 8.
So my initial reaction to this is that it is the public's right to know, and we should not be charging a dime for it. That's my gut and my 2 cents. I understand that it takes time. I appreciate all of the time and work that goes into it, but I also want to be respectful of the fact that the public does have a right to know. I'd be interested in, you say we've had an increase in that.
In the past 5 years, not
right.
necessarily this
How
past year.
How much of a like?
So I will go to say that many of them involve our attorneys and have costed us well over $10,000 per request.
Because we have to get the attorneys involved in order to redact.
Not necessarily in order to redact,
Or
to
just-
review the request and make sure it's in compliance. So
Got it.
there, every request is different, and every request has different needs associated with gathering that information. And, a reply often is, can you narrow your request? The scope of that is very large,
Right.
and sometimes we work very easily to something that's manageable, and other times it's not. So, and some of these requests come from folks from all over the country that have a lesser vested interest in what Brookline School District is doing, and others are coming from residents. And legally, we can't say no to anybody, but
Can we not charge our community, and can we split the difference here? Like, are we allowed to do that?
Can I ask a
Probably
question?
not.
Are
I'm
you,
just curious.
are you saying that you don't think anyone should be charged regardless of whether it's paper or electronic? Because paper, the logic was also the supplies and those pieces, but so I was curious if there was a delineation, or if you just felt
No,
across the board, there should not be a charge.
I feel across the board, I don't think our community, I didn't realize that this went outside our community.
Yep.
My gut reaction is that our community should not be charged to get information that they are entitled to. I get it with the supplies and everything, but they also do fund our schools, and they are already kind of paying for the supplies that we would use to. So if we need to build out our budget a little bit more to support said requests, I would rather do that than, do you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
Personally, I don't know what the gut reaction here is now. I don't know if we're allowed to though then say outside of our community, if the request comes from outside of
Yeah, that's a
Brookline,
good
if we're
question.
allowed to.
we
charge,
often
like-
don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's
Huh,
just a
fascinating.
request that comes
This-
in.
Just a gut reaction.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm like.
So don't we allow also, if there's a request, that they can just review the materials?
Yeah, they can inspect.
Yep.
They can
So
come
I
in.
guess,
Come in and respect. Okay.
I was just gonna throw this out. So we're providing the materials for them to review, but we only charge if it's electronic or copy. So we're not,
However, if, depending on what they're requesting to see,
Right.
the labor is still involved
it's
in
still,
providing
it's
that
still
information.
redacting and all that stuff.
But
Just a thought, if you're opposed to that, could you ask for a donation in response for the, say this, provide an invoice and say there is no expectation you pay.
Right, we're taking donations
But
to
this
get a new
is what
roof.
it costs the school district.
Different things.
No, I'm just, I know they probably, but I'm saying
No,
if
that's
there's
fair.
an opposite, sometimes, I've given donations to things when, when asked for, because I also don't know if everybody knows the cost that goes in. I didn't
Probably
know
not.
you could be charged $10,000 for a single request.
Yeah.
It's news to me, right? So I had imagined people don't understand,
I think
there's
that was
a lot
the
of dis-
cost to the school, not to
Right.
the person,
Right.
right?
Right,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I understand that, the cost of school, but there's a lot of discussion about taxes in the town and things like that, and if there was, if we are against, charging per se, I'm just saying maybe also, if that was the final decision, at least providing the information that that's what that costs or would cost, potentially, just a thought.
is anyone in support of, before we belabor this?
To charge? Oh, yeah.
I'm in
gonna raise
support
my
of it,
hand.
but I just.
I hope that it would cut down on malicious or nonsense requests. I also think with Dan saying that, people can at least come and look, maybe that would be lesser of a price for them. I think we get requests all the time just to probably not to any real great end, and so I would just hope it would cut down. When you pay for something, it means something to you, right? So if it means something to them to ask for us to do this work, yeah, I would say yes.
I'm in support of charging.
Okay.
Done. Don't we leave it at? That's fine.
What
Yeah,
is
is
what
this
is the
consistent?
standard across the? What is the standard across other districts?
This is new, right?
This
The
is
ability
new
to
for,
charge?
well, yes, it's a new RSA.
Yep.
So we've only really looked at it as a policy committee since September. The other districts sort of were in the same predicament. Brookline based on when the meetings are, this is the first policy committee to meet to actually put this forward. So
has the like overarching school board made any guidance? How are other school districts other than just ours? Do we know?
Other school districts?
When the policy committee was addressing this, because it's a new RSA, so it's affecting all of New Hampshire, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And so there's a variety of ways. Some absolutely adopted this, some did not. Some are posting every request by the requester and the time it takes to complete that, making that visible.
Now, the charging for the copies has not been.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the charging for the labor.
It's for the labor and the electronics that's new, not the charging for the cost. So we've had that 15 cents per piece of paper when we've done hard copies in the past. That's been in effect. So there's just parts of it that are new.
But typically most folks just ask for it electronically.
Well, nowadays, yeah, in the past 5
Junior
years.
years, and they're actually posting who makes the request,
And what the request is. Yep.
because then it's right to know it, everybody.
Yep.
Right.
I mean,
Interesting.
That's another, I guess,
Fascinating.
safeguard too, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll bring that back to the committee. Thank you.
One second, and Alice, would you be covered, so they do 250 pages free at no cost? No, I'm just asking, like, if that was increased? I mean, at some point, I mean, if it is 35,000 pages, right? No, so I just didn't.
right. No, I. The point of when you
I
pay for
understand
something,
what
it means something. Like, my gut reaction is always to just. If somebody has a right to know something, especially in our community, my initial gut reaction is always to just be transparent with our community. However, I wasn't aware that it can come from outside the community. And so thus then, to Tracy's point of you pay for something, it means something. So, no, I'm comfortable with this.
Okay. So that was for second read. And then we have some for first readings with some changes. So DAF, Administration of Federal Grant Funds, that's a very long policy. Always fun to read. And this will be interesting because some of the changes in the law that has required us to make these changes encourages us, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to find what page it's on because it's so lengthy, encourages us to, when securing bids, hold on, I don't want to misspeak, so I just want to find the exact page. This is not organized in the way that is easy to go through for me. Contracting with small and minority businesses, women's business enterprises, and labor surplus firms. So this was a change in the law that came forward, which is why we are going to update this. I'm not sure if that will change, and we'll have to revise verbiage. But at the moment, this is one of those policies that we are required to have, and we are required to upload to the grants management system, affirming that we are in compliance with all of these pieces, and DAF is one of them. And so we have to update that. Like I said, I wonder if that will be amended in the law at some point.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, I'm not totally following you. So, the policy, is going to, I heard you in terms of the vendor,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sorry, just help me understand, what is the current and what are we looking to change, or?
Okay, so if you go to page 52 of the packet.
I just found it.
Yeah, and so anything that's underlined is new language. And if it has a cross through, that means we're getting rid of language. So before, it just said the district must take necessary affirmative steps to assure that minority businesses, women's business enterprises, and labor surplus area firms, including without limitation, this is the new part, veteran-owned small businesses or service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses are used when possible, and then it says target businesses. So all I'm saying is, as of right now, we're required to make various amendments. That's one of them to this policy. I envision that might be revised again, and you might see DAF before you later, whether it's right away or, before we do the final adoption of this policy or next year. But this is one that we are required by law to make these changes to the policy. So we don't really have much of a say in that one. And then another first reading that we have coming forward is IGE, parental objections to specific course material. Bless you. And so this includes a lot of, we always had, not always, but since 2022, we've had this policy, and you can see that it's mostly crossed out toward the end of the policy. This is page 69 and 70. And so this, the new language talks about sort of the process by which, if there's a parental objection to course material, how that parent makes an objection, and then how the parent works with the school to find an alternate materials for the student to work on. So that's that's straight from updates in the RSA.
And that meets all legal requirements.
Correct.
obviously.
Yep. And then finally, for
One quick question on that one. Is that just for the individual student, or is that for, I mean,
Correct.
for us
Yeah.
to talk about, or, okay,
yeah, so this is just saying I don't want my child
sure.
to be exposed to X. And then there's a conversation, whether it's with the curriculum administrator, the principal, et cetera, on, okay, well, how are we going to meet that, the standard? And we can just change the how. And then finally, a first reading as a brand new policy is a visitors to school policy. So here nothing is underlined because it's brand new to Brookline, so the whole thing is just new. And it talks about basically who can visit the school and how we do that. Because we don't just have an open door policy where anyone can come into our schools at any time. So those are all of our policies.
Any other questions or? Do I have to do another motion then to accept?
No.
We did at the beginning, so we're
Yep.
good. Okay.
So now you just vote.
What?
So now you just vote
On?
the policy memo. Because you did the motion, once you have a live motion, you discuss and then.
Then we discussed it all, and so now, we'll
Vote.
take a vote on accepting the memo as written. All in favor? Excellent.
Thank you. And so you can expect next month, anything that said second reading, you'll see as third and adopt. We usually do 3 readings so that there are 3 months where it's out there for discussion, so the community just can be aware of what it is that we're talking about. First would become second readings, et cetera.
Okay.
So thank you.
And at this point, I'm going to close non-public. We've not had any visitors this evening, so it is 7:18. I'm going to go ahead and close public input at this point. All right, the only thing left we have is non-public. Yes? All right, so I'm going to make a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A:3, 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, and RSA 91-A:3, 2C, to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself. May I get a second? Second. And we need to do this by roll call, so start with Heather. Just Heather, aye.
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 You state your name if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, Heather Reardon.
Perfect.
Lynn Powers, aye.
Tracy Perry, aye.
Allison Mannion, aye.
Thank you.
right.
So non-public at 7:19. And Joe.